Hello everyone, today I'm gonna talk about weird French cars. Of course, there's quite a lot of weird French cars since we got quite a few of automakers in our history. However, I'm still gonna just cherry pick some. I may do a part 2 one day, but right now I'm just gonna deal with those cars. So we're going to start with Renault. Starting with a car that is still in production and you can still buy brand new with Renault, the Renault Twingo 3. The Renault Twingo 3 seems like your everyday hatchback. Front wheel drive, front engine, like a very classic hatchback, like even a Honda Civic is the same thing. Well, actually, no. That car is extremely weird, because Renault decided, you know what, let's stop doing normal things. Let's put the engine in the back and also make it rear-wheel drive. So now this car has an engine in the back, which is extremely weird for a hatchback, and even Renault doesn't trust this car in terms of road handling because they decided to put traction control in it, and even if you remove it, it will still take over no matter what. So I guess they knew it was dangerous, but I think selling a rear-wheel drive to the general public is not a good idea. But they are already planning to end this car, I think in 2024, but I'm not exactly sure about that. Now let's get on another Renault, the Renault Clio. Now the Clio 2 is a great car, it's actually very nice, I really like it. It looks nice. Has a 4-cylinder engine. Some of them hit 100 horsepower without any issue, and it's a pretty fun lightweight car. But Renault decided that that wasn't enough, and they woke up, decided, hey, let's make something extremely dangerous. Like it's even worse than the Twingo. It's the Renault Clio V6. Yes, there's a V6 in that thing. No, it is not a joke. It is not even a concept car, it's a real legal car. You can drive this around, which is insane, since in France we have pretty strict laws in terms of cars and what they can do and cannot do. So what is funny about this car is that they couldn't fit the V6 in the front, so they decided to put it in the back. But also due to the weight, like the Twingo, they decided to make rear-wheel drive. So that means it's not their first time making a public danger, because it's also very dangerous, especially the Mark 1. The Mark 1 is also very rare, because you had an issue with it. It's that when it starts to slide, you don't feel it, until it is too late. So I think about all those poor Clio V6 that died this way, all into a tree. They did a Mark II of the Clio V6, which is less dangerous because it will slide way less than the previous one. However, it was still a bit dangerous. And they also cranked the horsepower on it. It went from 230 horsepower to 255 horsepower because it wasn't dangerous enough. The V6 in it is actually called the V6 ESL, which is very well known in the French market because it was used in some Peugeots and some Citroën. So it's actually pretty funny, but the thing is, on the Clio V6, it is the most powerful version of the V6 ESL. And something funny about it, all cars with a V6 ESL stock wasn't turbocharged, it was naturally aspirated, and I love that. I like the Clio V6. I know it's dangerous, but it's still pretty funny. Like, I like the danger. The type of car like you want to drive, even though you know you could die trying to drive it. Now let's go on another Renault. So I'm gonna talk about a very nice little Renault. It is a coupe, so it's pretty, you see, sporty. It's a luxurious coupe, and here it is. No, this is not actually it. That's a Renault Spider. Here's a true car. Oh yes, I forgot to tell you, it was a MPV. What? An MPV cannot be a coupe? But see, you can see it, it has 3 doors. It's a sporty car. The thing with this car is that it was a concept car. And Renault decided that somehow, oh yes, it will sell. We should make it into a real car that you could buy. Which makes it even weirder is that when it started selling, it didn't even have a diesel engine option. At the time, there was a diesel craze where everyone wanted a diesel engine in their cars, and yet this one didn't have it immediately. It actually has some pretty nice engines, like they have two inline fours, one that gives 165 horsepower and it's petrol, it is turbocharged, and an inline four diesel engine that gives 150 horsepower that is also turbocharged, and also a V6 that gives 210 horsepower. So you'll say, oh, that's pretty nice horsepower, because for European cars are pretty light anyways. Well, I don't think for that one it was very amazing, because that car weighs around 1.7 tons. So 165 horsepower, I don't think that's really amazing for a car like that. People love this car so much that it was only produced 2 years with less than 10,000 cars made, which is not a lot, especially for such a big car brand like Renault. Plus, I can understand why people don't like it too much. On pictures it doesn't look too bad, but in real life it looks very strange. Now let's get on another car that has something to do with MPVs. You see, Renault launched the trend of making compact MPVs in all over Europe. Peugeot, Citroën, Volkswagen, all that decided to make one. And to celebrate the 10 years of the Renault Espace, they decided to make a weird concept car. They decided that the best thing to do was to take a Renault Espace and strip all the sheet metal, put carbon fiber, adding 4 racing seats, and put a V10 that is straight out of a F1 car. There are only 2 that exist. One doesn't even have an engine in it, and the one with the engine hasn't started in a very long time. Only a few people know how to start those engines. This car was actually used as a safety car in a few Formula 1 races, which is pretty insane. But they stopped doing it because having a F1 engine idling in your ears constantly is annoying. Because the Espace F1 is really an F1. That thing is extremely loud. Take a break with Renault and start talking about one of the weirdest car brands of all time, Citroën. Now, Citroën is very well known for making weird stuff, and I'm only gonna talk about a few things, but Citroën makes a lot of weird stuff, even in their regular cars. We're gonna start with a regular 90s sedan, the Citroën Xentia. Now, like a lot of Citroën at the time, they had a very fancy suspension called the hydropneumatic suspension. This type of suspension started with the Citroën Traction 156H and ended with the Citroën C6. This car has a very different suspension compared to all of the other Citroën. It had a version called the Activa. This version is very special because it is a very reworked hydropneumatic suspension that made it have an insane road handling. In fact, it is so insane that in the Moose test, this car beat the 2008 Porsche GT3. Can you imagine that our French sedan V6 version has beaten a Porsche, a track car, in terms of road handling? And a lot of cars pass the Moose test because they have traction control, but remember that this car specifically is pretty old compared to the other ones, and it has an amazing road handling without traction control. And in that car we also find again the V6 ESL, which gives this time 194 horsepower, since I have said that the Clio V6 has the best version of it. Now, the next car is not made by Citroën but by Michelin actually. It was made using a Citroën DS, a wagon one, and it is pretty insane. Why, you may ask? Because it has 10 wheels. The name of it is the Michelin PLR, often nicknamed in France as La DS Mille Pattes. It was made in 1972 to test truck tires. The engines that they decided to put in it was not one but 2 Chevrolet V8 engines. Both engines had a 19-liter fuel tank. This absolute monster is 2.45 meters wide and 7.2 meters long, and it weighs 9.5 metric tons. It is huge, especially compared to all other European cars and not American boats. It is still alive today. It's parked at the Michelin Museum, and sometimes it moves for events, but it's no longer used for tire testing. Now I'm gonna talk about another weird Citroën, the Citroën M35. It is based off a Citroën Ami, which is Well, I'm gonna talk about it in another with French cars video, I guess. This car is a bit of a concept car, but was actually sold to the general public. It was a reliability test, because it was an unfinished car. It was testing a new type of engines, rotary engines. Yes, just like Mazda's RX-7. This reliability test was actually a scam. Like, to be honest, you're buying an unfinished car that is very unreliable, and it also had hydropneumatic suspensions, which makes it even more unreliable, because on hydropneumatic suspensions, if one thing breaks, everything breaks. This rotary engine actually was made with NSU. They worked together to make rotary engines, but they both ended up badly. Citroën almost died, but Peugeot bought them, and NSU got bought by Audi and died. The only brand that survived, even though they were researching rotary engines, is Mazda, that somehow made it. Not a lot of those Citroën M35 still exist to this day. They wanted to make 500 of them, only 267 were made, and around 30 of them still exist. So my hopes of owning one day is ruined. I know they are bad, but they look extremely fun. Speaking of Citroën Ami, we're gonna talk about the new version of it, especially its category, cars without license. Now, we will start with the Citroën Ami, the new one. I think it looks extremely ugly. It looks like a plastic box, and the front looks like the back, and the back looks like the front. Those cars are cars that you don't need a license to drive them. They are extremely weird, not powerful at all. They are extremely expensive. They usually go for 10k, which is extremely high, especially when you know that they usually give 8 horsepower. It is extremely low. Like, why would you spend 10k to have 8 horsepower? And when I mean 8 horsepower, it's really 8 horsepower. No, literally. You can either have them electric or diesel powered with very big engine at 2-cylinder. Not only they are slow and expensive, they are also dangerous, because if someone without any license can drive it, that means every idiot can drive it. I've seen people drive those and looking at their phones. Like, what the hell are you doing? You are driving a car! Some people market it as, oh yeah, but it's for young people so they can be more independent. If they can have a license, then why give them a car? No, they are extremely dumb and dangerous. I've seen a story of someone that bought a car without license, and the next day they crashed it. If you crash your car, literally the next day you got it, you should get an award, because to be honest, it's really impressive. Anyway, the video is coming to an end. I think I'm gonna do a part 2 once I have enough cars to do another video with. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye!